All right, we are live, and welcome everyone to yet another episode of Narrations and Lamentations with Mittierim and the boys. As always, I am Mittierim. With me is Skip and Michael, collectively known as the boys. Um,
With a
you guys
Z.
want to say, yeah, with a Z. You guys want to say anything to welcome everybody here before we kind of dive into tonight's topics?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, friend.
You guys are really the life of the party tonight.
Hey, that's what we
All
do.
right. Well, I'm getting the page up so we can see if anybody would like to leave questions or comments. Tonight we are going to primarily be dealing with some topics that you guys have sent in and various things you guys have wanted us to talk about. We're going to chat a little bit about kind of where we are in the narrative first, though, and where we're starting to use the Nagash stuff. So, not really going into too much detail, but we did about two or 3 hours ago, I posted our first game, narrative campaign game, with the new Nagash stuff. Most specifically, the use of the undeath lore. So it was my vampire counts versus Skip's Bretonnians. So Skip, I don't want us to go into too many details of the actual game, but if you want to just get us warmed up on your thoughts on the undead lore in general, and kind of how it impacted the game and or the narrative in your eyes.
I think that it's a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't like it. I can't think of the word I really wanted to use, but it really had a big event outcome on how the game went last night. A really big impact. I don't think it's. I don't think it fits in the fluff as it is now, the way we want to use it. I really can't go into a lot because I want everybody to look at the battle report and see exactly what I'm talking about. But it was really tough for me to overcome once those spells started going. It was a lot for me to overcome in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as far as my response to it, interestingly enough, as the person playing it, I still wasn't terribly impressed. I think the biggest problem for me, not even factoring in a power level issue, was just how much time I was having to spend in the books during the game. I mean, I don't have these books memorized, particularly the stuff that I'm not even using in the army list at the time. So it really felt like it was very distracting. And maybe somebody who is got more of a brain for the numbers on it would be better off and could just know this stuff from their brain. But basically I was hardly paying attention during Skip's turns because I was spending half the time looking in the books to try and decide what I was going to need to summon on my next magic phase. So, I think it's kind of distracting. I definitely plan to play around with it a little bit more to get a couple of more uses out of it just to see. But I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of meh about it. Any thoughts you want to put forth, Michael, as far as having seen it from as you were our observer during that game?
I'm kind of with you on it. It's just magic. I mean, it has some shiny tricks, but beyond that, it's boring to watch it. It doesn't have anything that's okay. Like with the ogres, you have troll gut, and it's a super spell that that's make or break the game kind of thing. With that lore, it's just You get a couple spirit hosts, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I did, And for the record, so that the viewers who haven't seen it, I do eventually get a Terrorgeist out of it, but it takes like 5 turns for me to build up
Yeah.
the tokens and get it. So it's like I don't know that it happened at the right time to make it truly impactful to what's going on. Though I do have to go on record and saying, and I was called on it, I actually screwed up the summoning of the Terrorgeist because I forgot the entire base of the creature that you summon has to be within 12 inches of the caster, and I only just put it like at the edge of the 12 inches, so it was my bad. Didn't really affect anything too much, but that's one of the things we'll have to pay more attention to as we're continuing to test the lore out.
Yeah.
I think what we'll need, I mean, if you're an undead player already and you're playing both vampire counts and tomb kings, you're going to have the models for it. So you're going to be one step up. And if somebody just wants to pick up this lore, just to say, add it to the Dark Elves or something like that, you're going to need to, invest money in undead minis. I mean,
yeah.
Just see that, I mean, it was lucky that you had all that stuff that you were pulling out anyway, but you were going through 6 or 7 boxes at a time, just to pull out the stuff that you were going to do.
Yeah, but I don't know if we can count that as a negative side to it, because, I mean, let's be honest, that's sort of the part and parcel of this game. If there's new units introduced, new this, new that, to it. I think none of us are blindly optimistic enough to realize, or to not realize that is the intent that GW is going for with this product. They want people to buy the undead stuff, particularly the undead stuff that hasn't been selling. So I think we just have to kind of accept that as a state of this product and try and judge it beyond that on its own merits.
Well, I mean, it comes down to it. Well, for me, am I going to buy a brand new set of Bretonnian knights, or am I going to invest in undead miniatures for just one lore? You have to look at it that way too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And I probably wouldn't even be doing it, even with my other armies, if I wasn't already a VC player. Just because, yeah, I mean, you're right. I would much rather buy models for my army than buy models for a spell effect, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, we have been talking about Nagash and the end times for almost 3 straight episodes now. So I want to set all of that off to the side. And we're going to deal with some questions that have been sent to us that are more general in nature. And the first one was sent to us by Vince Venturella, a good friend of the show. He's watched and commented on every episode we've done. So either he's enjoying what we're doing or he's just really bored at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. His statement / question is that every army obviously has its own story and wants to know what was it about the armies we've collected and chosen to play that has attracted us most from a story and fluff point of view. And what about if anything, about those armies do we not like from a fluff point of view? Michael, you've been really quiet. Why don't you go ahead and start off, since I know you have some deep and abiding dwarf love you want to pour out all over us.
Well, why I would pick the dwarves for playing in a narrative? I kind of feel like that's obvious. I think we've established that over the past several episodes. I absolutely love the dwarves. From a narrative standpoint, I don't know if I agree with everything Games Workshop did with them, but I make my army how I want it. But I like the dwarves. They're solid. They're stalwart. They'll stand up. And when I picked them for a narrative, I didn't really look at that at first until getting the books and the models and going, hey, I can build old cranky dudes for my entire army. So picking the dwarf for the narrative fluff wise was a really, really easy decision for me. And that people will tell me all day, you guys included, that hammers are garbage. But fluff-wise, I love the hammerers. They are my favorite.
Hmm. So
Um,
what about the army, the dwarf army, that do you not like in terms of fluff?
um, fluff-wise, I like most of their stuff. I'm kind of against how fluff-wise they make the dwarves, and I know this. I as a dwarf fanatic, I understand full well that every system, no matter if it's D&D or Warhammer or movies, the dwarves are seen as a dying race of stubborn people, and I wish they would be in Games Workshop less of a dying race.
So you want a little optimism to go with your beards.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a little bit of joy. It doesn't need to be a lot. Just a minor silver lining there.
Okay. And so I'll go with my next army, and I guess we'll just go around in circles, each doing one of these armies until we run out. I'll start with my ogres because they're where my heart really is in terms of the true love I have for an army. I love. I think what first drew me to the ogres actually was the models before I even had picked up and started playing again. I just loved the size of them. It was awesome. I saw some pictures of ogre models next to some other models, and just the beefiness of them really drew me in. Fluff wise, I love the fact how they've taken a race that even one that most people that play Warhammer think is very two-dimensional, and by adding the Maw and the Great Maw and how it works with them has made them much deeper for me. I kind of like that. They're still kind of unapologetically monstrous, but there's reasons for it, and I like that. As far as the only thing I don't like about the army fluff-wise is the fact that there are no Noblar characters. I would love. Well, they mention all the time that like ogres have favorite Noblars and stuff like that. I would love for them to play into that a little bit more and have like a Grand Scrounger as a Noblar character, and let you, like, even if they can only get 25 points of magical items or something. I think it would be a lot of fun to have Noblar characters running around, and that's really my only big complaint with the ogres. Skip?
Well, what drew me to Bretonia was, first of all, the prestige of the knights and everything like that. But the more I got into it, it's become the working man's army. Because you've got all these guys, all the little guys that are working their butts off and getting put down by the man. The man being the knights. So, what I love about it is you can actually, if you just put 5 knights out there, you can play an entire peasant army and have fun with it. But the more I've gotten into the Bretonian thing, I just think that's the way I look at it now. It's the working man's army. Power to the people.
Oh my god.
Power to the peasants.
Wow. And I think clinically speaking, there's a little masochism hidden somewhere in that answer.
But as far as
yeah, that was what I was going to ask. Is what your disliked fluff is?
I think they need more characters. I mean, truly. I know at one time they had a few more, but the king sucks. I love the Fey Enchantress, but she's expensive. And then she just leaves the Green Knight. I think there should be like a peasant hero type paladin that you can buy that will be there to automatically fit in with any peasant brick that you put together. So that's what I'm saying is missing, is the lack of characters.
Okay, Michael, your next one.
The beastman I kind of went with because it was basically between them and the lizardmen, and when it came down to it, I liked the fact that the beastmen were this animalistic predator that was hunting the empire, and it's a neat fluff. Um, I like the Gorgon a lot. The Minotaurs I love. Big the big monsters. After watching you play the ogres for so long, being able to play with the big monsters is a lot of fun. Um, I gotta say, I think my least favorite thing on them, fluff wise, would be they just if you don't run them a specific way with enough chaff, and you try and run them as a horde of bloodthirsty beasts like they should be, they tend to get overwhelmed and die, which I feel should be their motto of overwhelming and killing.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw it today, but Anthony from the Sustainable Center put up a video called "I Get Beastmen," and actually went through a very interesting Beastman army list that sounds like it actually would work. But sorry, I guess that was our commercial. So, all right. So my second army. Oh God. I'll focus on the demons next. Then. Again, strangely enough, I think what catches me first, with most of these armies, is the models and the look. And which is strange because I do a lot of conversions and a lot of other things for my demons, but that's what drew my attention at first. But the thing I like about the demons is just the single-mindedness of their pursuit. I mean, each god has its kind of own thing. You get to just dive into that and go for excess and crazy randomness, which, frankly, with that being my answer, is probably the reason why I went Slaanesh mostly. As far as the issue about the fluff that I don't like with them, I don't know. I don't like, and I guess this is another one of those issues where it's the fluff translates to the mechanics that I don't really like. I don't like the fact that you can't have a demon prince that is, or a greater demon that's so powerful that they cow all under them into service, and so you get to use their inspiring presence or their BSB. It really, like, there's just these imaginary lines that if you're not wearing the right colors, we don't pay any attention to you, and I don't really think I like that. But it's a very minor thing. Skip?
What drew me to the Dark Elves, and you guys are going to chastise me from now on as soon as I say this, but in the very beginning, I used to love to read the Dritz novels. In the very beginning.
Why don't you, and I don't know if this is specific, why don't you explain what that is, because some of our viewers may not know.
All right, TSR and Dungeons and Dragons created this Dark Elf character called Drizzt Duarden, who was basically a ranger who was cast out, and there was a book series on it, and I really loved it when it first started. And since that point, I've always been drawn to the Dark Elves. I like the fact that it's a matriarchal society that Dungeons and Dragons created, and I kind of have taken that as part of how I have built my Dark Elf army. Underneath a female instead of going under Malakath. I'm concentrating more on the female side. So that's kind of what drove me to that. What I don't like about the Dark Elves is I think that they're kind of glass cannons. You know, you can go in, you can hit fast, but they don't have any staying power. So I wish there was some way to it may be just me, but coming up with something to overcome that.
I find it really funny that pretty much each of us, the question was asked, what do we like about them fluff-wise, and what do we dislike about them fluff-wise? And each of us has answered why we like them fluff-wise, and our dislike has actually been a game mechanics thing. There
I think
hasn't.
that shows that we are fluff players and not competitive players.
I guess. All right, Michael. Why don't you go ahead and talk about your third army and pop a little surprise for the folks?
Oh, well, it might possibly be the High Elves.
Traitor. Knife
Um,
here.
it's okay because those names don't offend me.
Right.
Um, no, I picked them
Eventually,
up basically
if he
because
keeps changing armies, he's eventually going to realize that we're picking on him and not just the dwarves, though.
I don't believe that. I don't truly believe that. I believe there's a true hatred of the dwarves.
Right.
Not enough.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Continue.
Um, so why I picked the High Elves? I wanted to play a cav heavy army. And looking through some of the reviews online, some of the stuff we had talked about, the High Elves can do cav armies, and I like their cav models. I showed you the Dragon Princes. They look awesome. And painting some of them up, I realized why I'm having such a hard time painting the Beastmen compared to them, as I like armor, and they don't have super great armor, but they put a lot of it on the models, which I like. But anyway, fluff wise, I like the idea as what I'm trying to put them in as the Athenlorn elves who turn into wood elves. Basically, for our campaign, moving them over to be the elves that from Athenlorn decided to return to the actual high elves. So fluff wise, I'm liking the fact that I've got a lot of versatility with them, as they don't seem to be so stringent on this is every elf has one viewpoint. Like with the dwarves, every dwarf pretty much has the same viewpoint. With the beastmen, they're all crazed killers. With the high elves, it seems like there's a lot of infighting that I can play off of, which fluff wise is fantastic.
Okay.
Thing I don't like about them, and this is gonna pretty much come down to another game mechanical. I don't like the fact that it looks like in their list they have specific units in there that are just meant to be I push a button and win units, like the Phoenix Guard. I don't like that they have units like that in there.
Okay. So next one of my armies I'll focus on is the Empire. I actually like the fluff of the Empire being so overwhelmed by all of the crazy shit that's going on in the universe that they're really just guys defending their homes, and the whole human versus the strange is definitely something that I like. And I'm actually going to get to a fluff one this time, as far as what I don't like. And it's more sort of what is ignored in the fluff. Sigmar is by far not the only god in the Empire, but they, for the most part, seem to kind of downplay all the other gods. And I really think it would be awesome to kind of play those up and have more of a presence in the army of the followers of the different gods and those kind of cultures. I mean, it's why my Celestial Hurricanum is actually an altar of Mor, the god of the dead. And I have a beast, my mounted warrior priest is actually of Tal, the god of beasts. And I definitely think that there's more they could play up in the fluff of that human pantheon that would add more than just kind of a flat, oh, we all worship Sigmar and are bald. So, Skip, I think you've got one more army?
Yeah, Warriors of Chaos. What drew me to that, other than the fact that I needed an army, I just wanted to have one that could just go straight forward, take a beating, and put out one. But as far as the fluff is concerned, I really when I started reading it, I really liked Galrock, the first Chaos Dragon. I guess it's my Dungeons and Dragons background, but I really thought I could build something around this character or this creature. And that's kind of how I base this now that he's come out and saying, hey, there are other powerful chaos beings, and they're not going to be powerful than me. I'm the first one. I'm going to, knock them all out. And that's kind of how I'm planning on eventually playing them once I get a little more comfortable with them. As far as fluff-wise, what I don't like about it, I think it may just be me, but I think that Zeech is a little bit limited, and it needs to branch out more. I don't think that if he's the all-powerful god of chaos or god of change, I don't know. I'm just not getting a feel. Just reading it, I don't know if there's a lot that you can build around that as part of the army. I don't know if that's more fluff or mechanics. I'm not sure, but I just think that it's lacking something.
Well, I think you can do it if you play less into the warriors, like if you use the Forsaken or the Chosen, some of the monsters. I think there's a way to go with that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, since I have 2 more armies left and you guys don't, I'm just going to do my last 2 real quick. Vampire counts, the big thing I like about them is that they're perfect for a narrative, as all of their personality is directly hinged on their characters. The vampire or the master necromancer basically is the only one with a brain, so that's all you really need to do to build a good story around it, is focus on that. Not really anything about the fluff I don't like, except for perhaps the over use of the von Karsteins. I think if they pull that back a little bit and you can kind of have other vampires that aren't necessarily that being the end-all and be-all, that would be a better shot. And then my dwarves, it's interestingly enough, I think my love and hate is the exact opposite of Michael's. I actually really like the idea of them being a doomed people and still trying to fight on and make a life for themselves, despite the fact that they're dying and they're losing ground. There's something noble about that I really enjoy. What I don't really like is how hard they've made them. The idea that there is no word for forgiveness in the dwarf language, and so they don't forgive any slight. I just, in my mind, I can't understand how any society could be based. Like, they would have torn themselves apart well before they ever united, and so I think that's not so great. So that pretty much covers us and our armies. So the last part of this question that Vince answered, and we'll answer this one and then check the comments and see if anybody's left us anything. What army in the fluff would be the most anti-you as a person?
I'd say lizardmen.
Why is that?
I don't like reptiles.
Wow, dude. Okay.
Well, at least it's forward.
That's racist. I'm actually going to say probably the least or the most anti-me in the fluff is the Dark Elves. I think they're just they take themselves too seriously. They're just evil for the sake of evil, and frankly, even when I play my evil armies, I tend to be more gregarious about it.
Now, evil spelled backwards is live, and we all want to do that, don't we?
No, I play the dwarves.
Not my undead.
Okay.
So what you got, Michael?
I'd have to go with the Dark Elves as well. I'm just not all that bloodthirsty for the sake of being bloodthirsty. I guess at the same rate, the Warriors of Chaos would kind of be an anti-me as well. They're bloodthirsty without really needing to be bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
They're mad all the time.
See, with the Dark Elves, they do the whole blood orgy thing, and
yeah, that's a little weird.
The orgy thing's okay. The blood freaks me out a little bit.
They got it half right.
Right. Okay, so let's get to the some questions as we do have some comments. And I'm totally going to butcher this first name. Bagger Bokai says, howdy from Texas. He's putting some stuff together and listening to the good discussion. Well, thanks for watching. I don't know if we've ever seen you watching our show before, or you've not commented that I've recognized. So it's awesome to see a new watcher. Definitely thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we can at least entertain you for an hour or so. All right, and our good buddy, friend of the show, Vince Venturella, pops in again. He thinks that I'm dead on when it comes to the mental tracking and the bookkeeping involved in the Undeath lore. He does play Tomb King, so he says it's easy for him to just kind of throw in models that he doesn't use, but for others, he can only imagine that it's a distraction from the game. And then, Michael, he calls you on your BS. He says, as far as flashiness goes, are you seriously going to tell me that Troll Guts, a regen save, and a card that sits on the board is more exciting than a Necrolith Colossus popping up and shooting a great bow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't play against Tomb King.
No exam. I don't know that I would go that far. I don't even think that flashiness is the best word. Maybe more bang for your buck. I definitely think Troll Guts on a unit of my Ogres is going to give me more bang for my buck than a Necrolith Colossus showing up and shooting a great bow. And he follows up with a second comment that he says he has no life, it's true, but he also really loves what we're doing, so.
Well, at least he's honest.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Vince. We always love getting questions and comments from you, buddy. Keep it up. And speaking of which, we are going to go to Vince's second question. And he states, we play under a fun and involving narrative. However, he surmises that many players who play Warhammer probably don't even realize there is narrative or fluff in the world and simply set up and play. What advice would we say to those people to try and convince them to try a more narrative game, scenario, campaign, etc.?
I would say just use your imagination. Instead of sitting down and putting, your Dreadlord on a cold one, think, okay, well, what is this guy's name? Why is he leading this army? What has he named his cold one? Is it a specific name? It gives it you get more attached to the army, I think. That way, if you write a story about it. And to me, it makes it a little bit more fun than just sitting down and just moving miniatures forward.
I know for me, I actually think it affects the game as we play it. I think if you take the time to think about and give some personality to your general, you'll find yourself playing differently. You won't be necessarily thinking about the tactical choices you're making so much as what is this character doing in this situation. And it may make you make different decisions. And I definitely think that kind of reaction is worth it, particularly for those folks who may have one army, they play a lot, that it might be getting stale. You do that to kind of spice it up. I mean, kind of put your mind in someone else's tactical shoes and see where it takes you. And I definitely think trying narrative games and scenarios and what have you can help you do that. Mike?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you both on that. If you sit down and look at your character, I mean, building Ogre, I can tell you there are tactical choices I would never make. If I were playing the Dwarves to be competitive, I would be taking as many war machines as possible, not bothering with the hammers. I'd do nothing but just, frankly, if I can do it, I'd do nothing but a wall of like shield warriors and 2 cannons, organ gun, maybe a flame cannon or a grudge thrower, and then as many champions as I could throw in. But tactically, I don't want to do that with Ogre because that's not what he would do.
Mhm.
And I find it a lot more fun to play my character than it is to just, as Skip said, sit down at a table and just move miniatures forward.
Yeah.
So
And
definitely have to tell them to get involved.
yeah, and I think too, in that vein, it helps you and me keep our dwarf armies very separate. Because I play a younger dwarf army, and they're more, well, I guess we'll be honest, they're more timid than Ogrim and his dwarves are.
Oh yeah.
So I tend to go with more war machines, more ranged troops, and less big run in your face and beat down troops than you do because of that. And I think if we were both just playing for Tay wins, our lists would end up looking very similar. Yeah.
And you would never see peasants if I was just going for a tournament list. The only thing you would see is maybe some yeomen and the two rock throwers or the two
trashers. Actually, I've come up with a particular thought regarding that, Skip. I actually think the real reason you never see peasants in a competitive list is because you're playing with all of them. There are no more peasants left in North America because you have hired them all.
That's right.
All of them. That is why that happens.
Right. So that would be our thoughts. So final question from Vince, and this one is actually kind of duplicated by Mr. Malorian, who has asked us a few questions. So we'll do last Vince question and first Malorian question as one. Now that we're in the middle of the end times and all sorts of things are changing and everything's pretty much on the table, what single piece of narrative advancement would we like to see happen during the end times?
Is it a piece of narrative advancement that has come about because of end times or has yet to actually happen?
Whatever. If you were given a blank check to change fluff-wise, not mechanics, not units, just if you were allowed to change a piece of fluff or make some sort of advancement in the narrative, what would it be?
If I had a blank check for it, last book, Grimnir shows up and kicks the living hell out of Nagash for taking Volya's power. But as far as the current book sits, I would like to see more of the races of order starting to unify. Getting to the point where, how the Heils and the Dwarves were back when Chaos first showed up, where they were going, you know what, let's go deal with this. Instead of
get them back to sort of the pre-War of the Beard.
Yeah, and
kind
even,
of alliance.
I don't mind if they still have that hatred of one another, but that kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of setup. That's what I would like to see from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Skip.
I would like to see. Well, they've already cleared out the first thing that was bothering me, which was killing off the King of Bretonnia. But so thank you, GW. I appreciate that. Thank you, Nagash. Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay.
I hate the rest of your book, but thanks for doing that.
Thanks for doing that. But I would like to see more in what Mike touch a little bit on what Mike was saying. More interaction between, maybe teaming up between the chaos side, the dark side, and then like the forces of light. Like you'll see, I don't want. Is it where you can hire like the ogres or stuff like that? Well, I'd like to see more of that interaction in future. That's really the only thing I can think of.
All right, so I guess I'm going to go on the limb and be the most aggressive here. So the end time sets up with all of the volcanoes in the Mountains of Morn erupting, and the single biggest ogre migration since the Great Maw Falls. So they need somebody to kick ass on. So here's what I want them to do. I want them to sweep into the Darklands like the Wrath of God and break the Chaos Dwarves.
I'm hip to that.
I want Chaos Dwarf society to be... And what few survivors are, I want them enslaved by the ogres. Because then it would be cool. You wouldn't have to necessarily have, like, the ogre chariot cannons that nobody likes, but you could have like a couple of small units of Chaos Dwarves introduced into the next Ogre Army book, but they wouldn't be sort of the level of busted crazy BS that is in their own the Forge World book. And I think for just the rampagingest, I mean, the last big society that the ogres got to crush was the Sky Titans. And that was a long time ago. We're out of practice. We need to crush a society down to the bones. And the Chaos Dwarfs seem to be the best target for that, in my humble opinion.
I'm okay with you killing off the Chaos Dwarfs. I don't like them. Any dwarf that uses magic is not a dwarf.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we got a few more questions and comments before we go on to the next, because the next few questions kind of change gears and are a little more mechanical, so don't get afraid. So let's see. Vince pops up and says, "Great answers all around on the fluff that attracts us." And he says he agrees with many of our reasons on the individual armies. He gives a specific nod to your request for more Bretonnian characters, Skip, as he says, "In the land of great heroes, why do we only have 3 special characters?" And apparently he agrees more with you, Michael, on the dwarf dying race bit than he does with me. He thinks it's been overdone since Lord of the Rings, and wants to know why some dwarves can't just drink and fight and chop some deserving greenskins in their dirty skulls.
I don't understand it either. Apparently, this is what I'm talking about. Everybody doesn't like the dwarves. Anybody who's famous and could write the dwarves into something, they hate them.
Yeah, I mean, and I can, you know what? I can understand that. You can have dwarves who like to drink and fight and chop some deserving greenskins in their dirty skulls. I'm okay with that. For me, I like I don't know, that sort of hopelessness, or that rigid determination in the face of utter hopelessness. That's just what drives me to the army.
You know what's hopeless?
What?
Not having a new book.
Don't get started with that again, man.
I'm sorry.
We'll be here all night.
Now. Right. I'm all right. I got it out of my system.
Okay, then Bagger Bokeh again says he loves our channel and my channel, and it's the first time here, so awesome. Welcome, dude. And he wants to know what we think of Nagash in the end times. And sorry for your first time here, I hate to totally shut down this line of thinking. But we've been doing this weekly show the last couple of times. If you want to see kind of our thoughts on Nagash in the end times, the last episode we did, episode 5, is really where to go and check it out. We did pretty much an hour on Nagash in the end times and the fluff and everything there. So rather than fill out what time we have remaining with that, I'd recommend going and checking that out.
My opinion still hasn't changed.
Right. But like I said, if that's what you're specifically following, we did it way better last week in the full hour than we could in the 10 minutes or so that we would save to answer that question. So definitely check that out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on it, and I check the comments on all these videos all the freaking time. So, all right, so let's go ahead and try and power through these last few questions from Malorian. And his questions, again, go a little bit on the more mechanical side, so we'll we'll deal with them as best we can, but again, this is kind of like asking your house cat to fix your car. It might be entertaining, but it sure as hell isn't going to be helpful. So the first question he asks is, if we were to design scenarios for 9th edition, how many scenarios would we include, and what would they be?
I would like to see more of like a 3-army battle. I know they do it a little bit in some of the books, but I like to see a little bit more concentration on that for all of us, since there's 3 of us, and we'd like to throw down at the same time. I haven't played the underground one yet, so I'm looking forward to trying that and seeing how that's like. As far as something new, I don't know. I think they pretty much covered it in all the books that I've seen so far.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I actually think I would cut down on the number of scenarios. I think I would, if I were writing 9th, I would kind of present the basic rules for the game. Then I would present rules for fighting in other areas, like the underground rules. I wouldn't necessarily make them scenarios in and of themselves, but I would just have it in the section for, like, terrain. And you have a section for, haunted forest. You have a section for underground. You have a section for this, that, and the other. And then give, like, a breakdown for victory points based on holding objectives. Like, for instance, have buildings be worth X number of victory points if you have a unit in them at the end of the game. That way you can have other ways than just running out and slaughtering everybody to get points. And basically make it kind of an a la carte thing, so that somebody can go in and go, ooh, well, we want to play this underground game with stalactite rules and extra points for controlling X, Y, and Z on the board. And that way, everybody can kind of make their own thing, and then you can do specific scenarios within the campaign books that fit that particular story you're trying to tell.
Yeah, I can agree with that, Josh. If I had my choice, I would probably, I'd like to see more last stand type scenarios if I had my choice in it. Because in Blood in the Badlands, there's a Skaven Underground Advanced scenario that basically has 5 different battles in it, where the dwarves are being backed up further and further, and the last final battle is literally holding the underground gate from being overwhelmed. I'd like to see more last stand like that, where you have a victory condition that's not who kills the most, but who holds out longer.
Okay.
I'd also like to see more weather stuff, like have like a battle on a snowy field, or it's a pouring rain and your cavalry, and you're going to have to take dangerous terrains every now and then. Something like that would include the weather, in a scenario.
And absolutely, no, I totally agree with that. And like I said, that's one of those things that you could put in that a la carte list, so it doesn't have to be, it only rains when we're playing this one scenario. We can involve it in anything. So yeah, definitely, I think the scenario section in the book would look drastically different if we were to write it.
There'll be a lot more dwarvenness in there.
Right.
Probably a good thing we don't write tonight.
Dwarven football, where
where
you kick a dwarf skull around the
field.
That's Blood Bowl.
Is it? I never got to play that.
Blood Bowl's fun.
It is. You think the Heils and Dark Elves are broken now? You just let me get my hands on the dwarf floor. Nobody wants to play against them.
Flying bear cavalry. You just take a polar bear, put a dwarf on the back of it, put a propeller on it, and fly it around the field.
And it carries a cannon.
And a cannon.
It's a win-win scenario.
Hey, the dwarves have a giant lawnmower that they could put on the field in Blood Bowl. It's pretty hilarious.
Oh, yeah. It's cool looking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully that doesn't show up in 9th edition. That would be just kind of my general hope. So, just to let you know, our new viewer Bagger, and I'm just gonna call you that, mate, just to make sure I don't butcher this name anymore. He's seconding your Bretonia love, Skip.
All right.
He says he has 5 battalion boxes ready for the new book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He's my hero.
Too bad the new book is not going to have knights in it. And no, I'm joking. I'm hoping it still has knights in it. Right. Okay, so into Malorian's next question. If we were to change one core rule in the game, meaning one rule that falls in the BSB, in the BRB, not one of our army books, what would it be?
God, there's so many.
So many that you would change?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one in specific now that you asked me.
We might have to do a whole show on this if there's that many of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and I've kind of made mental notes, and of course now I can't access them. So, I don't know. You got me. Somebody else go ahead.
Okay,
while I'm thinking.
Michael, you go ahead while he's thinking.
The whole idea that a charger, because you stated in previous rules I hadn't played or previous editions that the chargers got to strike first. I'd like to see that reinstated.
Yeah, my biggest problem with that, though, is that it basically meant that if you charged, you won.
Yeah. At the same rate, though, I mean, maybe have it to where it's just on cavalry, or have it just on specific types of unit. Have it a rule that's implemented for how the High Elves have always strike first. Have heavy cavalry get to strike first in combat, or light cavalry, or however. I'd like to see something like that. So
I don't know that I would necessarily want that as a general rule, though. Like, that might be something nice to give Bretonia kind of a bump and make them be strong cav.
Yeah.
Like, give them always strikes first on the charge or something. But I think you're opening up a giant can of worms if you made that a general bit for the whole for everybody.
Then I will say being able to charge through gaps towards cannons that are kind of behind the lines, I would like to see something done about that. But that's prejudice because I'm a dwarf player and I like my cannon.
Right. And you're getting really tired of me having 2 wide Chaos Fury run through and hit your cannon. No, I feel you there.
I hate this thing.
For me, I don't know. I'm actually pretty happy in general with the rules for 8th. I think for me, the only thing I would do would be kind of a small overhaul on magic. I would like to see it more, at least maybe the power dice more able, like I don't know, more reliable. Maybe instead of rolling 2d6, maybe you like roll 1d6 plus 1 for every caster or something like that. Some sort of static reason to take multiple casters. Or even give an option like maybe the beastmen have where they drop the herd stone and they get additional power dice for each wizard around it. Something like that.
Yeah.
And admittedly, if you did that, you'd have to tone down the magic a little bit. So like I said, it would be, I don't know that necessarily counts as one rule, but it would be like one thing that would cause a bunch of little changes.
Basically balance out the magic a little more and make it more reliable.
Yeah. And failing that, like if I had to name one specific, failing that, I probably would only change the thing where cannons, if they hit a person on a monster that you hit one or the other instead of both. Like, you have to randomize it like you do with a bolt thrower.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, leave the D6 wounds, leave everything like that, but randomize it, and you might see more of that kind of thing showing up. So, Skip, any thoughts yet?
Yeah, what that comes to mind is, speaking of the monster, the mount. I think if you're going to spend the points on your general or whoever you're putting the points on and giving them a ward save, I think it should go for both.
You mean have the ward save apply to the monster and the general?
Exactly. I mean, if you're looking at it, it kind of does when it comes to Bretonia, because if they're on their Pegasus, the ward save covers both. But if you put, if a sorceress on a Pegasus and give her an amulet of protection, it doesn't. It only covers her, not the mount.
Right. Definitely. I could definitely see that. My worry is that there are some ways that could get really nasty really quick.
Oh yeah. For instance, I could take the Star Dragon with a prince on top of it, and then 4-up ward. Or I'll take that back. I could put the Dragon Mage with a 4-up ward. That wouldn't really work either.
Even that, like, can't Chaos Lords of Zenith try to dragon or something?
They can.
Yeah.
So put them on a dragon. You've got a 3-up re-rolling 1s ward save on a Chaos Dragon with the Third Eye of Zenith on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. I don't either.
I don't want to deal with that at all.
Maybe if you do it like, it would give them at least some protection. At least if you have a ward save, it's going to automatically give them out at least a 6-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some kind of chance to avoid the instant death.
Yeah.
I could see something like that.
You're spending all those points for that. I mean, and then one cannon shot and it's gone.
Yeah. Well, I have always thought that flyers maybe should get some sort of dodge save.
Yeah.
Like I mean, if you're a flyer, you just get a 5-up ward save against shooting. Just to be like, oh look, I'm dodging the cannonballs. Maybe 5-up's too much. Maybe a 6-up ward save. I don't know.
I don't know. I think 5-up would be okay. On that.
I'm not a math guy. I don't want to even pretend. I'm sure, like, if Malorian is even bothering to watch this, like, every suggestion we're coming up with, he's already crunched the math on it and is laughing to himself at the stupid ideas we've come up with. So, I have no idea. There are so many things that we're suggesting that could just bust things. For the most part, I think 8th is good. I don't see any reason to go hog wild on too many changes. Most of the stuff I'd like to see is little tiny tweaks. What?
Ogre charges. Get rid of them.
Dude, it's all we've got. We're fat dudes with no armor.
Literally, you take away their.
We gotta have the ogre charge.
Nah.
Take away the ogre charge. They're dwarves that move fast.
We're not even dwarves because we don't get armor.
Oh yeah, you're worse than dwarves at that point. Oh
yes. You gotta have for ogres to work at the point value. You gotta have the ogre charge. You gotta have the stomps. That's just a given. We did get a response from Bagger again, just talking about this, and I think he was pumping. I'm trying to get it to load up again. It hit my phone. That's why I was checking it a second ago, but it's not hitting this yet. He wants Cav supporting attacks at full value, impact hits on the charge for cavalry, and lances always strike first.
I can see that.
I would not want that because that would take you back to, I think it was 7th, where basically cavalry won the game. And there's really no good explanation for that in my mind. Cavalry wasn't that kind of thing in real life. Even in a fantasy game, cavalry shouldn't be able to sweep infantry, like entire infantry breaks off the table, which is pretty much exactly what would happen if you added all of those things into every cavalry. Now, one of the things, like if you're talking about stuff specifically for Bretonnia, absolutely give the lance impact hits. And I mean that even the impact hits could represent that first hit. I don't think you need impact hits and ASF.
Yeah.
Because essentially you're just double dipping to the same representative thought. But anyway, that he apparently.
Yeah. Suppose we lost.
I think we lost Josh.
Yep.
I think his computer took an ogre charge.
Oh no. Oh, didn't you hear about the assassins I sent?
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, they're just very
continue
good.
I agree with the impact hits on a Bretonnian charge. You know,
Yeah.
I think that would represent, and I would treat it just like an ogre charge. If you're getting back support from the cavalry behind it, I think that would work out in that particular case.
Hey guys, I disappeared for a minute, so I missed the.
Oh, we just laughed about your assassination.
Yeah, we said that your computer took an ogre charge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It was just like, your call has ended because you're terrible and you suck. I don't know. So next question from Malorian. What characters in the fluff do we wish had rules? What rules would we give them and how many points? As far as how many points, I don't even think we should bother because we don't understand that very much. We'll talk about the characters and the stats we would give them. So who wants to go first?
If I had my personal wish, an Avatar Grimnir would be nice. But that's, again, personal bias.
Can we restrict this to mortals? Or at least not gods?
I suppose. Well, it depends. Do you see the dwarf gods as actually gods?
Yes.
Okay. Then,
Are you talking our characters or characters that have already been created?
Characters that exist in the fluff, like it, not our campaign characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is his name? It's the dwarf slayer that follows, or the
Gotrek.
Yeah, Gotrek. I'd like to see him stat wise.
I think they used to have stats for him.
I think they did too, and I can't find them anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he seems like he'd be fun to play around with.
Right.
Maybe do a duo with him.
Yeah. They talk about, in the Ogre book, they talk about a Noblar, like the smartest Noblar, who could almost count to 3. And he was the one that helped like design the Noblar scrap launcher and stuff like that. So I think that would be great if they would give us... They're not going to give us general Noblar characters. Give me a Noblar special character. I really don't care. I'll put him in my army. Every time. GW, do you hear that? I will. If you give me... I guarantee if anyone is watching from GW, like that's happening, if you make me a Noblar character, a general character that I can build any way I want to, 25 magic points, I will buy 5 of them, at least. And I will use them every time. There will be 5 10-man units with characters in it, I guarantee you. So get on that, please.
Awesome.
I would say that I would have each of the dukes of Bretonnia be statted out from each of the different countries within Bretonnia. That way, if you want to put the crest of arms from that particular duke and make that one knight unit directly from them, why not have the duke riding lead on them? That's what I would try to stat out.
That would be
That's cool.
interesting.
I gotta say though, so sort of tangentially connected to that, they did this book for like the heraldry and whatnot. I think they did one for Skaven, they did one for High Elves, they did one for Empire. Why the hell didn't they do one for Bretonnia?
Yeah,
I mean, other than the fact that the real book hasn't been out in a billion freaking years, but I mean, of all the armies where you would want a very detailed, a very detailed way of painting and on ideas, Bretonnia should have been first on that freaking bandwagon.
Yeah, because it's not like we don't put them like on the armor, on the shields, on the horses. Yeah, why would you put that out? Morons.
Yeah.
Just kidding, GW. We love you. Thank you for killing off the king.
Oh, awesome.
That's a lot of hatred for that king. I feel like you bundle the hatred for that king that everybody else bundles for dwarves.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's not the only one that hates that king. He's pretty terrible.
Probably
not. Okay, so I guess last of Malorian's questions, and he just sent a comment that he just now joined us an hour late. So we did answer your questions. You just got to go back and watch it, Mal. If they released a rule that let you mix 40K and fantasy, would you play it, and how do you think it could be done? And I, as host, reserve the right to answer this one first with a hell no. I am so not about mixing my sci-fi and fantasy. Keep that peanut butter out of my chocolate and we will be happy. No interest whatsoever. Hell, I don't think any of us are even interested in playing 40K on its own, much less bastardizing our fantasy to get there.
I would add hell to the no.
And Michael is having his PTSD flashbacks about the last time he played 40K, so I think that's his answer.
I don't want that happening ever. Don't suggest that. That's such a terrible thing to do. Why would you wish that torture upon anyone?
It's all right, Michael. Go to your happy place. Go to your happy place. It's okay. It's okay. No one's gonna. The 40K can't hurt you anymore. It can't hurt you. It's okay.
It still exists, though.
Well, it does, but we can pretend it doesn't. It's not going to come get you.
We have the steam. We have the steam tank. I mean, there you go. That looks like something out of 40K.
No, the steam tank doesn't. I will give you the fact that the Soul Grinder does, but that's.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll go into that in all serious points since I think I'm the only one who's played both of them. If you mix 40K in with fantasy, you would get nothing but the army that have the highest strength and highest toughness, coupled with armies that have the longest range. So you'd see ogres with Tau, and nobody would ever beat them.
Yeah.
The game would just be broken.
Yeah, I just don't know. So. Let's go back to the comments real quick since we shot that idea down fast enough. So Bagger pops back and says, from a historical standpoint, his super cav is a valid request. I'm going to disagree with that. Historically speaking, cavalry was used to overwhelm lightly armed troops, flanking, useful for speed. The types of things that you're talking about where they get additional full value attacks, impact hits on the charge, and always strikes first, that would go to how things were in 7th, where literally a unit of cav would just sweep through everything in your army and could just take it out and keep going. I don't think there's any basis for that kind of power to the cavalry, and I frankly wouldn't want a game that functioned like that. I think the Cav are pretty strong now.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think maybe to give Bretonia back their position as preeminent cavalry people, you give them impact hits on the charge in lance formation, something just to give them a little bump. And for God's sake, let them have one-up armor saves.
Seriously,
Yeah.
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing that Bretonia is the primary knight army, and they can't get. They're the only ones for me. So give them one-up cav, give them impact hits in the lance formation to represent that primary hit, and call it a day. I mean, maybe give them some ground knights to give them some ground powers to compete in and stuff like that. But I don't think, in general, that the cavalry needs to get overhauled in any major way across the board.
Yeah.
I was saying when you had popped off there that if they treat it, and as much as I hate saying it, it's like ogre charges, where you're getting actually support from the back on the initial charge. I think that would be fine. But I think giving them, as a Bretonia player, I wouldn't want to just come in and sweep everybody. There's no fun in it. I think if you give them all that, then it's going to take away, something from the game.
Oh, yeah.
You give them that. But if you give them the impact hits on the charge, I think that represents that first hit, like you were saying. And I think if you get support from the back as part of the lance formation, I think that will add to the impact of the first charge. And I think that would work.
I mean, you literally could just copy and paste the ogre rule into the Bretonia book, and it would work perfectly.
Yeah.
On a 10 plus on the charge, you get D3 for each of those front 3 facings. Otherwise, you get 1 impact hit each at strength base plus 1 per rank behind it. So, I mean, you could be swinging some major heavy duty impacts, up to 9 of them. I mean, yeah, it would make getting hit with a lance, or God forbid, multiple lances at once, actually scary. So yeah, I think we all agree that would be our point there. And Vince says the rules for playing Sigmar as a special character were in the 3rd edition Empire book, and Orion from the Wood Elves is basically a god, so the idea of gods as special characters isn't too crazy. Vince, that wasn't what I was implying, because I understand there are definitely some divinity level characters. I would argue like the Fey Enchantress from Bretonia is pretty much that way. I mean, obviously the new Nagash model is. I was just kind of setting rules for our particular discussion, because
and the fact
frankly,
a Grimnir character.
Well, the thing is if we wanted to do that, we could all do the name a god we wanted. Like, somebody put legs on the Great Maw and give me stats for it, and I'd fucking play that thing in a heartbeat.
It's just a circular disc with little chair legs on it.
You daggum right.
If I played the lady, would I have to pray to myself?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would require that. You would have to pray to yourself.
I would too.
I sure would like to go for it.
Amazing.
You see that lady? She's praying to herself. Oh.
And that brings up another thing I changed. Why do we have to spend a turn praying? Don't we pray before we get up there? I mean, come on.
No, you don't do that.
No, you guys only show up for Christmas and Easter, you slackers. I personally think, like, I kind of like the visual idea and the fluff idea of them, like, taking a knee to pray. I just don't think they get enough back for giving up that first turn.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to make them do that, take out the prayer icon so that the peasants can't get it, but give the knights just a flat 5-up. Let them pray. Give them a flat 5-up. You don't have to worry about keeping track of the strength of anything, and make it worth the exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be how I would do it. Of course, it would be kind of cool that if like your praying gave you a different bonus based on what type of knight you were.
That would be interesting.
Like if you had the errantry vow, instead of getting the 5-up ward save, you got an extra attack. And then like questing knights, because you'd have to take off the god awful great weapon off of them, but because they're the ones going out and getting in trouble, maybe they're the ones that get the 5-up ward save. And then I don't know what you'd give Grail Knights. Maybe Unbreakable. That's probably too busted, but something like that to actually make them stand up to some shit.
Immune to Psych.
Yeah.
Well, Immune to Psych is about as much trouble as it's worth in honesty, because it doesn't let you choose when you're gonna. I don't know. Maybe have them have the ones that always strike first. If they pray, they get always strikes first. Questing Knights get 5-up ward save. Errant Vow gets an additional attack. Something like that.
Yeah.
And once again, they put down the peasants because the peasants are going to pray too. What do they get? Nothing. Put down by the lady.
Because you know that God don't like poor people. Nothing goes into that collection plate. Screw them. Well, here. So here. Okay. So let's go historically accurate, right? The knights get all of the physical benefits from the church. All the poor get is essentially pacification. So you give, when the army prays, all of the leadership of the peasant units goes up by 1.
Yeah.
Because they're calm, they feel good. Yeah. Boom. There. I have solved the Bretonia problem. GW, cut me a check. Let's do this.
Wow.
I'll have that book written in 2 days. Let's do this. Someone else will have to draw all the numbers in it, because I don't do this. So, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes now. I'm going to check the comments one more time and see what else we got going on. I think that's going to be about it. Oh, okay. So Bagger clarifies that he didn't mean all 3 of the ideas that he was talking about with the cavalry. He admits that would be OP and cost 1 billion points, and apologizes for the lack of clarification. No problem, man. To be honest, we all are. This whole show is just about getting together and shooting this shit. So we weren't taking offense, Ethan. Don't worry about it, brother. And it's good. It's fun to talk about what would happen in worst case scenario. But I definitely agree with you. At least the Bretonian Knights need an upgrade. For the most part, I think other knights are pretty alright as they are, point value wise, and what you get for them. I just think for the army that's supposed to be the epitome of horseback combat, Bretonia kind of lags in. Well, hell, I'd probably say the High Elves have better cav than them. The Empire has better cav than them.
Empire, definitely.
I'd argue that the Lizardmen cav is better than them.
Well, I mean, you're looking at
Dark Elves too, so yeah.
High Elves cav gets always strike first. I have 2-up armor. I get parries, or with the Dragon Armor, you get the 6-up ward save that I can improve. I mean,
wait, they get parries? Wait. They get parries mounted? Well, you still can't. It's a base rule that you can't take parries mounted.
Well,
yeah.
Either way, Dragon Princes still get a 6-up ward, so they basically have a parry.
To my knowledge, the only parry that can be taken mounted in the game is the Mournfang. because the Iron Fists specifically state that they can be used when mounted.
Yeah.
So.
Well, either way, I still get the 6 of War on Dragon Princes. So if you compare them to the best that the Bretonnian has, which is the Living Saint, my Dragon Princes perform them all day.
Living Aints.
I think you need to paint up a new unit of peasants and call them the Living Saints.
Yes.
Just because that would be awesome.
And they tend to last longer than the Grail Knights do in my army.
Right. No, and what you need to do is you need to give them a standard pole that you've just glued like bits of armor to, like a scarecrow, to look like a hung up Grail Knight or something. like my zombies do with the head of the horse on the pipe. Okay, so that is the last of the comments. So last little thing I want to talk about in the last couple of minutes is generally our plans for incorporating the End Times Nagash stuff into our narratives. We have been kind of hashing this out over the last week, and the ultimate plan, because there's so much of that sort of pre-setup work that didn't exist in our narrative before we start the actual End Times, we're actually going to have future by about 6 months. So what that means is, if you pay attention to the channel, there will be a new Fluff Masters video. I'm hoping to get it up in the next week or so, if I can get these slackers to bring me their armies and let me take pictures of them. That will essentially just be telling what happens to each of the armies in that 6 months. I'm combining it with pictures of our army, so it'll be kind of an army showcase / Fluff Masters, because I thought that would be fun for you guys. And then hopefully, like, I got a battle report out today. I've got another one to do as soon as Michael gets me his write-up for the end of it. And those will be the last 2 before the 6-month break. So everybody who is following the narrative, please be on the lookout for that Fluff Masters and watch it. Otherwise, you're going to get real damn lost when we start up the next round of the narrative battle reports. So I just wanted to say that for everybody who is watching this. Anything you guys want to say, either as teasers or just kind of summation thoughts?
No.
Yeah.
Got to tune in.
Yeah, you got to tune in for that. Bad things are happening. Bad things are happening.
Yeah, bad things are happening.
Okay. So wow, way to totally fail the spoiler part, guys. Awesome.
We're trying to spoil everything.
Okay, hey, I'm trying to give my viewers what they want. I am trying to be a generous and giving internet pseudo celebrity. So
I got a spoiler alert. The king's still dead.
Awesome.
Yay!
Well, how do I really want to have my undead raise him? I'm gonna buy. I am serious. Okay, all right. I've got a new thing, dude. I've got a new idea for Christmas. I'm gonna get somebody to buy me that freaking Bretonnian Lord kit, so I can make him a vampire lord on an abyssal terror, and just make him look all undead and creepy looking, and then forever torture poor Skip with the king. Awesome. It's gonna happen now. And just to mess with him, I'm gonna like show up at his house at night and like just hover it outside the window, like tap on the window. You will never escape the King of Bretonnia, Skip. It'll never happen. Okay, so before we get too silly, I think we missed that mark by about 5 minutes. I wanted again to thank everyone for watching. Vince Venturella, again, thank you for giving us topics and questions. You've been a great friend of the show. Again, Bagger, who's been with us this whole day, thank you for dropping by and seeing us for the first time.
Hey, man.
Remember to subscribe to the channel, and you'll get more of this kind of fun as well as our narrative battle reports. And again, Mr. Malorian, thank you for your questions as well. If you guys have any additional comments, feel free to leave them below or email them to me at joshlmerritt, MERRITT, @gmail.com. Thank you guys, and we will see you next time.